Good morning. So it's been awesome getting to know you a little bit. I want to keep getting to know you all. And to start, I wanted to show you some pictures of my family. So we're going to put some pictures up. Okay, so this is my, can we put them over here? Can you see them? So that's my wife, Margot, on the far left, the adult in the picture. They took this on Sunday when I drove here. Magnolia is the baby. She's 8 months old. And I know, we like her too. And she mostly just smiles and, poops. And then Charlotte is 6. She's going to be 7 soon. She's the oldest. She's at the top. She's awesome. And then there's Graham on the right. We can go to the next picture. I don't know. Go to the next one. This is, so yeah. I know, right? Yeah. So she's number 3. So if we pay attention to her, she's like, what's happening? Why is anyone caring about me? No, she's awesome. We love her. She mostly just smiles, and she's a blast. Go to the next one. This is Graham. He's my bud, and he is just my favorite little terrorist. He has a ton of energy. We'll go to the park, and he'll just run laps, and he just loves to run. Sometimes I'll be laying down next to him on the floor watching TV, and I have to be ready because he'll just get up and jump on my chest. And I'm honestly a little afraid for my safety. But I love him, and he has a blast. He's got a ton of energy. And then the next one. And then this is my daughter, Charlotte, again, and she loves to read. She's my little reader, and she likes science, and so she likes to take rocks, and she'll bring me a rock, and I get a hammer, and I break the rocks open, and she gets to see what's inside. That's her favorite thing. She loves rocks and books and reading. And right now, Charlotte is learning how to swim, which is awesome. Yeah, you can cheer for that, I guess. I don't want her to drown, so it's important. And so we go to the pool, and it's awesome because I've been the one teaching her. She's had some lessons, but we've never really been consistent with it. And so I'm the one teaching her. And it's interesting because I tell her this is how you need to kick, and this is how you need to move your arms. And you can see her little brain. She's like, okay, I can kick like this. I got to move my arms like this. And sometimes she gets a little scared. She's like unsure if she's going to be able to swim as far as I stand away from the wall so that she can swim to me. She's like, Dad, you need to come a little closer. And I say, no, Charlotte, I promise you can do it. And I'll come up right next to her, and I'll whisper in her ear. And this always, she's like, she loves this. I'll say, Charlotte, you are powerful. And she's like, yeah, Dad, I'm powerful. Go. Go to the other side of the pool. And so then I go and I stand, and she swims, and she's, gets her arms, and she can do it. And she always has this moment where she's like, I don't know if I can do it. She's not sure if she's going to be able to do what I'm telling her to do. And I have to whisper to her and tell her, Charlotte, trust me, you can do it. So this is my family, my children, and I love them so much, as you can imagine. Listen to this. 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. How great is the love that the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. Having kids has taught me more about God than I ever would have imagined, but it's not in the way that you think. It's not in the way you think. How is it possible that God can love us this much? How is it possible that God can call us his children and love us more than I love my own children? Look down to verse 16. This is how we know what love is. How is it possible? Remember we talked about light and dark yesterday, and the measure of your love for God, the measure of your light is your love for people. What is love? What do we say it was? What was the metaphor that we use? Love is like a filthy airport bathroom. Well, love is also like this. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. You want to know what love is? Look at the cross. When I was a little kid, I have a twin sister, and when we were probably like 3.5, 4 years old, we loved the purple I think it's like Robitussin, cough syrup. I don't know if it's Robitussin or what it is. But the purple flavor And, we only got it when we were sick because my mom's a tyrant. And so she would only ever give us this cough syrup when we were sick. But we saw one day, we noticed where she put it. She put it on top of the refrigerator, like in this cabinet above the refrigerator, which was high for us. And so we noticed this one day, and my mom was studying at the time. It was one night, and she was studying, and my dad was out of town. And so we talked, me and my sister, and we were either trying to kill each other or trying to work together on something. And so we decided tonight we would work together. And so we figured, what we need to do is we need to go get that delicious elixir, the purple cough syrup. And so we figured out a way to turn some drawers into a ladder to climb up on top of the counter. So we got on top of the counter. We're only about halfway there. And so we get up there and we're talking. And I turned to my sister, Liz. I said, Liz, I should probably be the one that climbs up there for safety. And she agreed. And so I stepped on her face and I climbed up and I opened the drawer and I pulled out the purple cough syrup, and there was a whole bottle, brand new bottle of purple cough syrup. And we survived getting back down somehow, and we got down on the floor, and this was before the days of the child-proofing things. So we just opened that sucker up and just shared the bottle. We were just like, and I don't know how long this took, because we just started taking full gulps, and usually you only get a spoonful. You only get that little spoon. It's like, oh, delicious. But we were like, we can drink the whole thing. Mom's not here. And so we chug this bottle of purple cough syrup. And so my mom, after about a few minutes, realizes like, it's too quiet. So she comes into the room and she sees us on the kitchen floor, just like going like this with like purple drool, like, hey, Mom. And she realizes, they're going to die. And so she grabs us and she calls the poison control line and she says, hey, this is what my kids have done. What do I do? And the other line says, you need to get your children. They could go into a coma and die. So what you need to do is make them throw up. You need to give them this thing. It's called syrup of ipecac. And yes, it's syrup. For anyone who says it differently, you're wrong. Syrup of ipecac. And so it makes you throw up. That's the idea. And we're just these little kids, and my mom is now worried that we're going to slip into a coma and die. And so she gathers us up, and she won't even put us in our car seats because she has to shake us to keep us awake, because we keep being like, this is so great, Mom. And so we're just like falling asleep, and she has to shake us awake, and my brother, who's a few years older than us, has to sit in the front seat, and she's, one of the kids, I think it was my sister, is on my brother's lap, and he's shaking her just like, you idiot, I want to go to sleep. And so we're driving in the car, we go to Walgreens, she's in line, for some reason there's a line in the Walgreens pharmacy, and my mom grabs the syrup of ipecac, she's behind a bunch of people, and my mom's just standing there holding the two of us, just like shaking us to keep us awake, and we're just like, and the guy at the Walgreens can see, she's like 6 people back, can see that my mom, that someone's gonna die. And so he just looks at my mom and just says, just take it and go. You can have it. So she left, she gives us a syrup of ipecac, and then the rest of the night, we threw up all over her. Just purple puke all over her. The love of God is like purple puke. That's what the love of God is like. Can you imagine? I wouldn't do that for you. If you drank a bunch of Robitussin, I'd be like, well, tough. I hope you live. But a father and a mother to do anything for their children. She would do that every day of her life for me, for my sister, for my brother. The love of God is like purple puke. And if you don't believe me, look at the cross. God loves you more than you could ever imagine. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called children of God. And this is what we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. How great a love this is. It's a love like purple puke. If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need and has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Here we have the love test that John gave us yesterday, right? You can say that you love someone, but if you don't back it up with action, then it's just empty words. Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This then is how we know we belong to the truth, right? So we've got another truth test. How do we know that we're following Jesus? Yesterday, we knew that we were following Jesus because of what? What do we have to do? We have to love, right? How do you know the measure of your worship? Are you loving people? And today, John's going to clarify another way that we know that we're following Jesus, that we know that we're Christians. This is how we know that we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. Another way you could translate set our hearts at rest in his presence is our hearts are fully convinced. We trust and are persuaded by God. Whenever our hearts condemn us, does your heart ever condemn you? Your heart ever tell you something about what you've done? And then pretty soon that thing that you've done, that lie, you become a liar. Well, not you, somebody maybe. And something that you did and you start to feel like and dirty and lazy. And you have these accusations. These things that you did something and before long you start to believe because you've done that thing over and over again that that is what you are. Right? I love my children. Can you imagine if my kids came up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, can I have a hug?" What do you think I'd say? Of course I would say yes. I would pick them up and then I would start kissing them and be like, "Dad, stop." Because I love them. What if they came to me and said, "Dad, I'm hungry, Dad. Can I have something to eat?" I would say, what do you think I would say? What do you think I would say? Yes, of course, right? I'll give them anything they want to eat. Except for my son can't eat string cheese because he pukes it up. It's disgusting. But anything else. Sorry, there's so much puke in this morning. What do you think I would say if my kids came to my daughter, she's in school, she came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm having a problem in school. Can I talk to you about it?" What would I say? Yes, of course I would, right? Because I love my kids. I want them to know that I love them. I want to know that I'm going to protect them, that I care about them. I want my daughter to know that when she's swimming in the pool and I'm swimming next to her, she's safe. She's protected. And so when I whisper in her ear, I say, "Hey, Dad's here. Dad is right here. Just swim to me. I'm not going to let anything happen to you." My son, Graham, a few years ago, he got really sick. He got dehydrated, and then he went to the hospital, and they gave him this drug, and then that drug, he had an allergic reaction to it, so he got even sicker. And so he's a skinny kid, but he just swelled up like a balloon. It was like he was stung by 100 bees, and he couldn't eat or drink for a few days, and so we took him back to the hospital, and he had been in the hospital the day before, and then we went the next day, and then the third day we went in, and I had to watch Charlotte, and I had to be home while my wife took Graham. Now, my wife is the sweetest, kindest, most loving person that you have ever met. She's just a little thing, just a little, there's not much to her. And she is, I'm the one, like if something goes wrong, I'm the one that like does the complaining and is like mean. Like I'm the mean one in the marriage. And so she's like the sweet one. She's like apologizing for me after we leave a place. Like, "I'm sorry, I know, he's this way." And so but she was at the hospital by herself. This is day 3 of being in the hospital, and her little boy has gone in and they messed up the first time. She didn't say anything. Went in the second day and they messed up again. They wouldn't give him an IV. She goes in the third day and her little boy hasn't moved and he's not eating and he's not getting enough water, and she's taking this syringe and she's pushing water into his mouth, trying to get him just to get enough water. And my little tiny wife became a mama bear. And she went into that hospital. And he got an IV, all right? I think a doctor maybe lost their life, but at the end of the day, my son got an IV because she just got mama bear, right? She was like, "This is my boy, and I will do anything to get him what he needs." Because that's what parents want for their kids. They protect them, they love them. And you know what? No matter how many times my son jumps on my chest and tries to kill me, I will still love him. And it seems crazy, doesn't it? I remember I was driving in a car one time with my friend Will. This is when I was in high school. Will was a little older, and we used to go places together. He's a good friend. We worked together, and we were driving somewhere, and I was trying to tell him about Jesus. I was serious about my faith, and I was trying to tell Will, hey, God loves you. He cares about you. And my friend Will was an atheist, and he just thought that was the dumbest thing, that I would be a Christian. But we were still friends, and it was good because even though we disagreed, I told him the truth of what I believed, and he thought that was stupid, but at least he still hung out with me, right? And so we were talking one day, and I was just trying to tell him about God's love and about the cross, and he just looked at me and he said, Tyler, that just doesn't make any sense at all. I said, well, what do you mean, Will? And he said, well, can you imagine if you were an ant? Or we're ants, right? To God. God is way up in heaven, and he is holy, and he's great, and he's awesome, and we're just these ants. Would you die for some ants? I said, no. It's like, well, then why would God send his son to die for us? I had to think about it for a minute. I wouldn't die for some ants. But I would die for my daughter. I would die for my son. I would die for Magnolia or Charlotte or Graham. And your Father in heaven, loves you that much. Being a father has taught me about God, but not necessarily in the way you might expect. You see, I would die for Graham, but I wouldn't send Graham to die for you. I would die for Charlotte, but I would not let a hair on her head be harmed for you. I would die for Magnolia in a second. But the love that the Father has lavished on us, that he sent his son to die for us, I don't think I would do that for you. But God did. That's your heavenly Father. And so when you tell me, no, I'm a liar, and I'm dirty, and I'm lazy, and I'm a slut, and I'm a whore, and I'm a pervert, and I'm disgusting, and I'm ugly, and I can't possibly be loved that much by God, and your heart condemns you, and you have that accuser in your ear, right? It's not just yourself sometimes. Yeah, you do something wrong, and there's evidence of these things, right? There's things that you've done in your life. There's evidence that you are these things, and then the accuser comes and he whispers in your ear and he says, yeah, that's what you are. You're a liar. You're a pervert. A slut, a whore. You don't matter to God. You couldn't possibly matter to God. And you start to believe those things. Start to trust the words of the accuser more than your Father. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, if we have confidence before God and receive from him anything we ask because we obey his commands and do what pleases him, I would give my children anything. Anything. Can you imagine, what if God appeared to you in a dream and said, I'll give you anything you ask for? What would you ask for? What would you ask for? Money? How much? Too much. All the monies. Okay? He wants all the money. What would you ask for over here? What? Knowledge. Oh, you've read this story before, haven't you? And what would you ask? Anybody else? Money? Power? Food? Somebody say food. Three choices? Free choices? Free tuition. That's money. That's money. So there's things that you would ask for, right? Just like when my kids come to me and ask me for stuff and I want to give it to them. Well, this one time, listen. This one time, God did this for Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 5 through 15. Go read the story at your break time. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5 through 14. And Solomon has this dream, and Solomon has just inherited the kingdom from his father David, and he's just a kid. He's just young. He doesn't know what he's doing. And God appears to him, and he says, Solomon, I want you to ask for anything, and I'll give it to you. And you might expect that he would ask for power over his enemies, that he might ask for wealth, that he might ask for dominion, that he might ask for all of these things. And Solomon, you know what he says? 1 Kings chapter 3, he says, God, give your servant a discerning heart. A heart that knows the truth, to govern your people, to distinguish between right and wrong. Who is able to govern this great people of yours? And this is what God says in verse 12. I will give you what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart. Now, we tend to think of the heart as a place where, that's where you have your feelings, right? What do we give each other on Valentine's Day? We give each other hearts because we love each other, or we like each other enough to, give each other a heart. Listen, if you have feelings for somebody and it hurts in your heart, that's a heart attack. That's not feelings. You need to go see a doctor, okay? So in the ancient world, for Jews and for Christians, when they talked about the heart, it wasn't where they had their feelings, that was where they thought. That's why John says, be persuaded in your hearts, be convinced, trust your hearts. You see, there is evidence to the contrary that you can't trust this truth that John is telling you. There is plenty of evidence that you are what the accuser whispers in your ear, right? You've done things, you've said things, you feel unlovable. You feel like there's no way that God could care about me this much. There's no way that he could call me his child. There's just no way. And that accuser whispers in your ear and tries to convince you that these things are true. And the question you have to ask yourself today, do you trust the accuser more than your father? Do you trust the accuser more than your father? My daughter, when she's swimming in the pool and I'm whispering in her ear, you are powerful. Does she trust me? Or does she trust that voice in her head that says, I can't swim that far. I can't do it. I don't know if my dad is going to take care of me when I try to get to that distance. I don't know if I can do it. And what does she have to do? Not because there's no evidence. There's water is there. It's further than she's ever gone before. There is evidence to the contrary, but trust is relying on the words of your father, that what he says about you, that he loves you, that he cares about you, that you're his son, that you're his daughter, is more true than what the accuser says. John says it this way in Revelation chapter 12, verses 10 and 11. He says, I heard a loud voice in heaven say, listen to this. Listen to what your father says. Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ, for the accuser of our brothers. That voice that says, dirty, slut, shameful, liar, unlovable, ugly. The accuser of our brothers has been hurled down, who accuses them before our God day and night. He has been hurled down, and they overcame him. How? By the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Do you trust what your father says about you more than what the accuser says? I remember it was a night like last night, and it was CIY, and we brought this kid named Miguel with our church, and Miguel had never been to any kind of move event. He just had started coming to our church. He got invited by a friend on the soccer team, so Miguel came, and I remember he heard a message like you all heard last night, and he was just in tears, bawling. Maybe some of you were too. And Miguel was crying, and I remember talking to him, and he just said, I had no idea. I had no idea that I had a God who loved me, a Father in heaven that cared about me. Honestly, God, the only thing he said that he knew about God, this is what he thought Christians knew, what he knew about him. He said, I thought you couldn't eat chicken on Sunday because Chick-fil-A was closed. And we laugh at that, but that's what he thought it meant to follow Jesus. What it means to follow Jesus is to love like Jesus loved. What it means to follow Jesus is to recognize that what your Father says about you is more true than what the accuser claims. Father, I pray that these students, as they go out today, as they're reading through 1 John, as they're thinking about the contrast between believing and denying, between trusting you and trusting the denials of the accuser, that you would remind them that your love for them is greater than anything they could ever imagine.